Assalamualaikum. This is presentation video on our final year project with title MCDM Approaches for Performance Evaluation, a case of microfinance institution in Malaysia. Our dedicated supervisor is Dr. Zahari bin Muhammad Rozi that have helped us a lot in finishing our final year project. Before I begin the presentation, I would like to introduce my group members. The leader for our group is Shazarina binti Shahar. The second member named Nur Aina Dayana binti Ishaq, and my name is Siti Anisa binti Sheikh Ahmad Kamal Al-Daruj. We are from N4CS248 6B2. Basically, in this video, we have introduction, problem statement, objective and study, literature review, methodology, result and discussion, and lastly is conclusion. Without further ado, let's proceed with introduction. Microfinance, also called as microcredit. It is a type of banking service provided to unemployed or low-income individuals who did not have any other access for financial service. Microfinance help people to run for acceptable small business loan safely and in compliance with ethical lending procedure. Microfinance becoming more important as a primary source of new job opportunities, improving the social and economic well-being and reducing poverty. In Malaysia, microfinance is not a new phenomenon. Credit unions, cooperative bank and bank specialists have all participated in this scheme. This study's aim is to measure the performance of microfinance institution in Malaysia by integrating AHP and critique methods with various selection of SCDM method. Microfinance must construct a sustainability measure that includes both beneficial and non-beneficial criteria. The result of performance provide important tools for microfinance institution, government, and to the top management of institution for the future use. There are three alternatives involved in our research. The first is Amanah Ikhtiar Malaysia, and we call this as AIM. AIM is a non-government organisation. It was established in 1987. The next alternative is Tabung Ekonomi Kumpulan Usaha Niaga, or also called as Tekun Nasional. Tekun is under the Ministry of Agriculture and Agro-Based Industry Malaysia. It was established in 1998. And the lastly is Agrobank. Agrobank is a leader in agriculture financing and value-based banking. Agrobank was established in 1969.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Shazarina binti Shahar. I am going to present the problem statement of our paper. So the first one is the various of criteria adopted into evaluating the MFI performance. For example, SAAT 2014 used both benefit and cost criteria. Meanwhile, ZU 2019 used macro-environment factor. Therefore, we need to find the suitable criteria to get the best outcome. Secondly, method used in calculating the criteria weights. AHP is commonly used to calculate the weightage, but previous studies show that the result is not satisfactory and improvement is needed. Thus, we will use two approaches, which are analytic hierarchy process and criteria importance through inter-criteria correlation, and enable it in our MCDM methods. Our last problem statement is there are too many proposed methods to evaluate the performance of MFI. Thus, we will use MCDM method, which is Topsys, Vickers, SAW, and Prometi 2. Weightage obtained from AHP and critique will be integrated into this method.
Now I will explain about research question. This study provides several research questions as follows. First, how integrated AHP with Topsys, Vickers, SAW, and Prometi 2 is used to measure the sustainability of microfinance institution. Second, how integrated critique with Topsys, Vickers, SAW, and Prometi 2 is used to measure the sustainability of microfinance institution. And the last one is, what is the best method to measure the ranking of the microfinance institution? Research objective. This study suggests several research objectives to evaluate the performance of microfinance institutions to be attained as follows. First, to propose the integrated AHP with stock series, FICA, SOR and Prometheus 2 to measure the sustainability of microfinance institutions. Second, to propose integrated critique with top series, FICA, SOR and Prometheus 2 to measure the sustainability of microfinance institution. And the last one is to compare and analyze the result ranking by proposed method.
Significance of the study, weighting of criteria is crucial in solving the multi-criteria decision problem. We use AHP as subjective approach and critique as objective approach. There are a lot of advantages using the proposed Mcdm methods. Thus, the outcome will give a satisfactory result for all alternatives chosen. Benefits of the study, it will give benefits to the operation of MFI. Criteria chosen will improve the services of MFI in the future, and borrowers can understand the benefits of MFI and decide on which MFI to apply the loan.
Now, I will explain about scope and limitation. Scope. Our primary objective is to evaluate the performance of microfinance institutions in Malaysia. In our study, the method that we use is AHP, critique, FICA, TOPSIS, Prometheus 2 and SOR. In this study, we refer to Local Microfinance Organisation 2018 annual reports. For limitation, there are two limitations in our study. First, the accuracy of the data. It is because we use the secondary data. The accuracy of the data depends on the data collected by the past researcher. Second, the confidentiality and security of the data. Some companies prefer their information to keep private from third parties. Therefore, we only get the yearly report for the year 2018. Literature review. In this part, we will explain the literature review that we obtained from the past researcher. Literature review of microfinance. Microfinance is a financial service that caters to people and small enterprises with no access to conventional bank and associated service. Here the summary of literature review for microfinance that we have obtained. Literature review of AHP method. The advantages of AHP method. AHP as its subjective approach is being able to quantify qualitative traits which lead to its numerous use in the social, educational, political and engineering fields. Here, the summary of literature review for AHP that we have obtained.
Next, let's continue with literature review of critique method. Critique stands for criteria importance through inter-criteria correlation is a weighting method that determines the interdependence between the criteria. In 1995, critique method was proposed by Diakoulaki, Mavrotas and Papayanakis. One of the advantages of using critique method is that the weight can be defined in the absence of decision maker. Here, the summary of literature review we have obtained from the critique method.
TOPSIS method. TOPSIS is a practical and useful technique for ranking the alternative using distance measure. This method is based on comparison of all alternatives in the problem. Advantages of using TOPSIS method is TOPSIS offers a satisfactory result to measure the performance of microfinance institution. Due to its simplicity, heuristic and understanding of its techniques, TOPSIS offers a satisfactory result to measure the performance of microfinance institution. These are the few literature reviews from the past researchers that use TOPSIS in their paper.
Literature review of FICA method. The advantages of FICA method. FICA technique is quite simple as it consists of a smaller range of steps to rank the alternative. Here the summary of literature review for FICA method that we have obtained.
Next, let's continue with literature review of SOR method. SOR stands for Simple Additive Weighting. SOR is a common method for making multi-attribute decision. SOR method sometimes referred as weighted linear combination or scoring system. The SOR approach has an advantage over other decision-making models in terms of being able to make more accurate judgment. This is because it is based on predefined value and preference weight. Here is the summary of literature review we have obtained for SOR method.
reference ranking organization method for enrichment evaluation is what the PROMETHEE stands for. It is a collection of techniques that make advantage of outranking or preference connection. JP Brands created the partial ranking PROMETHEE 1 and complete ranking PROMETHEE 2. According to Brands, they describe the key principles and utilize them to rank projects. PROMETHEE method is a user-friendly method. Thus, it is one of the advantages of using PROMETHEE method. Here's the summary of literature review we've obtained.
Next, let's proceed with methodology and implementation. There are 4 stages need to be done for evaluating the performance of microfinance. At the first stage, we have to develop the model by set the objective and select potential criteria in measuring the performance of microfinance institution. At stage 2, we have to obtain weightage for each criterion by using AHP and critic method. At stage 3, weightage obtained will be implemented in TOPSIS, Vickers, SAW and PROMETHEE 2. Lastly, we will compare the performance score with proposed method. At the first stage, development of model. The first step is set the objective and the second step is select the potential criteria. At the second stage, obtain weightage for each criteria. There is 3 microfinance officers from various microfinance institutions who were chosen as decision maker, and we label them as DM1, DM2 and DM3. The alternative in the study are AIM A1, Tekun A2 and Agrobank is A3. And there is 9 criteria obtained for this study. C1 loan disbursement, operating self-sufficient C2, financing target C3, revenue C4, repayment rate C5, government grant C6, rate of outreach C7, depth of outreach C8 and the age of microfinance institution C9. Secondary data was obtained from annual report and official website from AIM, Tekun and Agrobank, which consists of financial data and non-financial data in 2018.
Stage 3. Evaluate and rank the alternative. In this study, we use 4 methods to rank the alternatives, which is TOPSIS method, Vickers method, SAW method, and the last one is PROMETHEE 2 method.
At stage 4, result and discussion. The data have obtained. As for objective weightage, we have obtained the data of microfinance institution from companies' annual report and official website for the year 2018. As we can see, there are 9 criteria and 3 alternatives.
I will explain AHP method. In this section, we demonstrate a computation of HP via distributed questionnaire titled Criteria that Influence Other Criteria in a Microfinance Institution in order to acquire subjective weightage that will be implemented in TOPSIS, Vickers, SAW and PROMETHEE 2. A financial advisor from MARA and 2 financial advisors from Scheme Microcredit in conventional bank have participated to answer the questionnaire. Step 1. Pairwise comparison matrix. This table shows the pairwise comparison matrix from respondent 1 that has been collected from the questionnaire. Step 2. Normalize the matrix. In this part, formula above show the calculation for weightage of AHP for loan disbursement. The weightage is calculated by averaging all the elements in the row that have just been added, then divided with the number of criteria. Table above show the result of weightage that have been calculated using the formula above. Step 3. Calculate the consistency matrix. Formula above show the calculation of the consistency matrix for loan disbursement. Table above illustrate the value of ratio using the formula above. The consistency matrix is calculated in order to check whether the calculated is correct or not. Step 4. Evaluation the consistency. There are 2 evaluations for consistency, which is consistency index and consistency ratio. This part shows the calculation for consistency index and the value we get is negative 0.6430. Before calculate the consistency ratio, we must know the random consistency index, and the number for our random consistency index is 1.45. This part shows the calculation for consistency ratio. The value for consistency that measured using the consistency ratio formula is negative 0.4434. The value is less than 0.10, which means the data obtained is consistent. Step 5. Calculate the average weightage of AHP method. This part shows the calculation of average weightage for loan disbursement. The average weightage of each criterion according to the AHP technique is displayed in table above. The weighting will be implemented in top 6 FICO permitted to and so in order to rank the chosen microfinance institution.
Now, let's proceed with critique method. This section describes the step-by-step implementation of the critique technique. For the first step in critique method is to normalize the decision metric. This is calculation for loan disbursement of AIM. The second step is to calculate the standard deviation. The third step is to determine the symmetric matrix with element R. The fourth step is to measure the conflict created by criteria J. And the last step is to determine the quantity of the information and objective weight. From here, we will get the quantity of the information and objective weight that will be used in the top 6 Vicker, SAW and Property 2. And we also can get the rank for each criteria.
Weightage obtained from AHP and critique method will be used in all Mcdm methods. First is the AHP top 6. Step 1 is normalize the decision matrix. Note that loan disbursement of AIM is used for this method. First, the vector is calculated and presented in the table vector value. The value obtained will be used in formula 3.11 as shown. Here is the result for step 1 using AHP top 6 method. Step 2 is weighted normalized decision matrix. Value from step 1 will be multiplied with the weightage obtained from AHP method. Table show the result obtained and the formulation is demonstrated as follows. Step 3 is to find the positive and negative ideal solutions. Maximum and minimum value will be observed. The value is obtained using this formula. Note that beneficial criteria is loan disbursement and non-beneficial criteria is depth of outreach. Table show the result obtained for beneficial criteria. Table show the result for non-beneficial criteria. Step 4 is to calculate the Euclidean distance from ideal best solution. Value of AIM is used based on this formulation to obtain the best ideal solution and negative ideal solution. Table show the result obtained. Step 4, relative closeness to the ideal solution and rank the alternative. From this table, the highest PI, which is the performance score, is considered the best MFI. This is due to its higher performance score. AHP top 6 found that AIM ranked at first place, meanwhile Agrobank at second and Tekun at third place. The difference of AIM performance score show a big gap between the other two. Agrobank and Tekun performance is poor since the score is below 0.5.
AHP Vicker method. In this chapter, the implementation of the Vicker technique aggregate by using the subjective weightage gained in the AHP method. In this part, I will show the step and calculation of the AHP Vicker approach. Step 1. State which criteria is beneficial and non-beneficial, then determine the best and worst value of each criteria. Here is the calculation best and worst of loan disbursement for alternative AIM, Tekun, and Agrobank. Table above show the result for the best and worst of each criterion. Step 2. Normalization of SJ and RJ. Here is the calculation normalization of SJ and RJ for loan disbursement and AIM alternative. Table above show the result for normalization of SJ and RJ. Step 3. Determining the number of QI. Here is the calculation for determining the number of QI for AIM alternative. In this calculation, we use 0.5 as the value of V. Table above show the value of QI. Step 4. Ranking the alternative. After getting the value of QI, we rank the alternative based on the lowest value of QI. Table above shows the ranking of each alternative. According table above, the outcome of AHP vehicle analysis reveals that AIM ranked top according to the carefully selected criteria for evaluating performance. Agrobank ranked second and Tekun ranked third. Step 5. Acceptance of rank choice. The value we get is 0.7177, which is more than 0.5.
Next, let's proceed with AHP SAW method. The first step is categorization of attribute. Based on the criteria, only breadth of outreach C7 and depth of outreach C8 are non-beneficial criteria, while the rest are beneficial criteria. The second step is to normalize the decision matrix. This is calculation for loan disbursement of AIM. The third step is to calculate preferred score for each alternative. And the last step is to select maximum preferred score. From here, we will get the rank for each alternative.
Let's get into AHP Prometi 2 methods. Note that loan disbursement is used for beneficial criteria and breadth of outreach is used for non-beneficial criteria. Step 1. Normalize decision matrix. Maximum and minimum value is calculated first and table display is the result obtained. Formula 3.25 is used to calculate the beneficial criterions and Formula 3.26 for non-beneficial criterion. Table and calculation are shown here. Step 2 is determination of deviation by pairwise comparison. The preference DAB is a difference between AIM and Tekun value in step 1. Formulation and table 38 are shown here. Step 3. Preference function is defined in two categories. First, if DAB is more or equal to 0, it will multiply with the weightage obtained from the AHP method. But if DAB is below 0, it will equal to 0. This is because we don't want any negative value in the table. Step 4. Determine the multi-criteria preference index. Formula 3.28 is used to incorporating AHP weightage into the preference function from the step 3. Table 39 shows the value obtained and the sum of preference function is met. Step 5. The leaving and entering outranking flow. Formula 3.29 is for the leaving flow and 3.30 is for entering flow. Here is the calculation of AIM. Step 6. The net flow and alternative ranking. Net flow is calculated based on Formula 3.31. Here show the calculation. From this table, we can conclude that AIM is still ranked at first with the highest net flow. Tekun and Agrobank performance are poor because the net flow is less than 0.
As for critic topsis, critic vehicle, critic SAW and critic Prometi 2, the steps are same with previous topsis, vehicle SAW and Prometi 2 method. The difference is only at weightage part, where in this part we use objective weightage obtained from critic method. Now, let's see the overall performance. We can conclude that there are different ranking for each criteria and microfinance institution depends on which method it used for evaluation. As for weightage obtained from AHP, the first ranking criteria is loan disbursement, meanwhile for critic method is government grant. Regarding ranking obtained from AHP method, the first ranking will be AIM, the second rank will be Agrobank, and the third place will be Tekun. Based on AHP weightage, the ranking from topsis, vehicle, SAW and Prometi 2 show the same result. Meanwhile, for critic method, it shows a different result. Topsis and Prometi 2 method indicates that AIM is placed as the first rank, meanwhile vehicle shows Tekun as the first rank, and SAW method shows Agrobank as a first rank. We can see that critic weightage give different outcome to the evaluation performance of microfinance based on topsis, vehicle, SAW and Prometi 2 method.
From the analysis, we can conclude that AIM has the best performance among other institutions. The AIM outcome display the highest value in terms of loan disbursement and repayment rate. These two criteria apply to the MFI financial services. Higher loan disbursements in AIM denotes the amount institution could deposit into the borrower microcredit scheme account. The higher repayment rate indicate that the borrower had no difficulty to repay the loan.
Recommendation: future studies should aim to compare the research for microfinance institutions not only for Malaysia but also for other developing countries.